Hello! Welcome to the Tabletop Call-In Show. It is January 24th, 2022. The first month of the year is nearly over, but not fully over, because it's the 24th. We've still got a whole week. This is the Tabletop Call-In Show, where you call in to chat with us about games. Why would you do that? Who are we? I'm Adam Bell. I make games. I like to play games. Find me on Twitter at AdamyBell. Find those games at adamybell.games. I've got a game coming to Kickstarter tomorrow, which is a whole thing. We'll talk about it in a second, I'm sure. Jeremy, introduce yourself. Tell the fine people who you are or whatever else you want to chat about.
What a lead-in. Thank you so much, Adam,
Wow.
for giving me full respect on the show. Hi, my name is Jeremy Gage. You can find me at JeremyGage5 over on Twitter. You can listen to the Draw Your Dice podcast, which is found on any podcast distributor out there. You can also follow at Draw Your Dice Pod, or when new episodes get uploaded every...
Hang on. I don't know if they can hear you.
Oh, good.
Oh, it's because I'm a fool.
Minimum respect.
Oh, wow. Well, I just realized that I don't even have my headphones on. Oh my God. We'll be right back. Here, Jeremy, I'm going to switch it to the audio so they can hear you.
Okay.
And then I'm going to run to find my headphones.
Okay. Beautiful.
All right, they should be able to hear you now. I'm muting myself.
Heard. Hello, everyone. Can you hear us? Can you hear us out there in internet land? Me specifically. Can you hear me specifically? Give me some juice. Give me the Juice Nation emote if you can hear me. I got a huzzah from Eli. I'm super quiet and robotic. Boom. Hey, bit better. Better. Juice Nation emote. Remember that I'm lagging behind 7 seconds of what's actually happening in the stream. So that's why I'm responding at this exact time. Adam went to go get his headphones. So I'll reintroduce myself in case this is your first time listening. My name is Jeremy Gage. You can find me at JeremyGage5 over on Twitter. I'm the host of the Draw Your Dice podcast, which is a show that interviews indie game designers such as Adam and many others who you'll find in the chat now. You can also you can follow the at Draw Your Dice pod over on Twitter to get updates of when new episodes release every Saturday morning, unless something else changes per your time zone. And yeah, if you didn't hear Adam's intro, Adam has a game coming to Kickstarter tomorrow. Legend has it, which will be amazing. You should go and do a quick follow right now while watching this stream, just so you're, up to date on everything that's going on with Adam. And
yeah, we're back to normal now. Everything's fine.
Yeah, we're here.
Solution recovered. Just completely forgot that I wear headphones for the show and not when I'm on Discord otherwise. But yeah, we are here. Great, Phil, Jeremy. I'm sure it was wonderful. Yeah, I've got a Kickstarter coming tomorrow. How about that? You believe that?
How about
it is
that?
a 4-little game that I've talked about on this show before called Legend Has It. It's launching tomorrow. It's going to be a good time. You can go to kickstarter.adamybell.games to, find it if you're listening to this tomorrow, or to follow it and get an email from our good friends at Kickstarter if you get it. You've backed a Kickstarter before, probably, if you're so deep into the tabletop world that you're watching this show. But yeah, I'm excited about it. You want to know a secret that I'm going to pretend that this happens later, but so that I can post an unboxing video as the first update. But the first proof copy scheduled to arrive today.
Woo!
It's on its way. Although I'm going to pretend like it arrived on Wednesday.
I just got this.
You believe that? Yeah. So that'll be cool. That's very exciting because I feel like I've probably talked about it on here as well in the past, but Grasping Nettles took way too long to make, and
Hmm.
Legend has it is finished before I'm even launching. So that just really feels nice.
Yeah.
Just a real load off.
Fulfillment from the rip, dude.
Yeah, instead of me nearly 11 and a half months after it, I'm spending like my whole weekend just folding zines, which is a whole. It's nice. I've been watching way too much TV because that's what you got to do to fold paper over and over and over again. What have you been up to,
Ooh,
Jeremy? What? What?
well, first of all, Floating Chair wants to see the proof copy.
Oh no, it's arriving today.
No, I know.
come
I'm
come
just
on now.
saying the people are hungry for it. Uh, no, I been watching dogs, sitting dogs at my house, and I've been working on Umbral Dive. It's going to be in quick start mode. Hopefully ready for hot seat time, uh, which no one knows about yet. But hot seat time.
Oh yeah, we'll talk
Uh,
about that. I think at the end of the show, we'll tease that.
Yeah, we'll tease that. But yeah, Umbral Dive's coming along. I just need to fine tune the sort of resolution ish system and do all of the tactics board design, and then it'll be good to go for like a combat, like to run a dungeon or something like that. A
Hell yeah.
dungeon, a dive.
Oh, an Umbral
Yeah.
dive. Wow, I just
Roll
figured
credits, dude.
I figured it all out.
Yeah.
Cool. I played this past week. I'd had an exciting tabletop moment, which is I played a game of Follow. If you've never played Follow by Ben Robbins, it is a fun little GM-less game where you go on an adventure. But I played it in a world that was created from a game of Grasping Nettles.
Oh.
So it was the third session of this emerging campaign that I'm doing with some friends online. And like the Grasping Nettles thing was, the world we're making is like, what if when they went to the moon they stayed there? And then so like the first generation that we played was like in the 70s of this moon colony being set up, and there's like US people there, there's Soviet people there, and then we did the generation skip to 100 years in the future to see like this bustling moon city. And then from there, we also had learned at some point that there was some weird mineral on the moon that extends people's lives, which was immediately snatched up by rich people and exhausted. And so then they learned that there was more of this mineral on the moon Eurydice of Jupiter. And we learned that from like a glimpse in Grasping Nettles, which is, if you're not familiar with the game, that is like a glimpse is when you look outside the community that the game's focused on and learn about it. And so somebody was like, there's a glimpse of this secret ship that's heading to Eurydice to like get the stuff first. And like the last sentence of that glimpse was that there was like a traitor from another faction on board, and we were like, we got to play this. We got to do we got to do this whole game, and it was just really fun. Because with the secret traitor, we did a thing where we drew cards at the very beginning to see which player's character was going to be the traitor. It was just really good. Some very good moments in that. That's all I have to say.
Yay! And then you just can link that into like a game of Legend has it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, link it into something. I think we do have a game of Blades in the Dark scheduled because there's we did, as part of the Grasping Nettles, there were elections for the first moon president, and like a weird fascist guy won. And people are trying to assassinate him, so we're going to play a game of Blades to see if the assassination works.
I love that. That I was doing as I'm doing research in Umbral Dive and thinking about like what kind of game I want to make. I think that I am interested in systems, or I'm sorry, I'm interested in multi-system games. And what I mean by that, like for like Umbral Dive, there's going to be player facing combat, there's going to be GM facing combat, there's going to be then you have the stuff like what does overworld or macro level relationship play or faction play look like, campaign play? What does micro level RP look like? And I think that we can give players more credit instead of like designing a D20 system that feeds all the way through the whole game but doesn't like feel the same as everything else. Like engaging in a conversation doesn't necessarily have to feel like engaging in combat. So why do we use the same tools that we use for combat for social interactions? So I think I'm interested in like developing a system for each mode of play in
Yeah.
Umbral Dive.
Yeah, so like kind of have this concept of what I'm doing. Like Grasping Nettles doesn't. There's no way to do an adventure, so we played Follow. But like baking that sort of thing directly into your game, where it's like, oh, if you're doing an adventure, go to the adventure rules. They're way different, but
Yeah,
like
yeah,
cohesive in some way. Yeah, no, that's rad.
yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Multi-mechanic games. We have a
Will,
caller.
yeah, Will is asking if it's a call-in day or listen day. I said call-in. If so, what's the topic? I don't think we have one, but we can find out what the first call is about because Discord user and friend of the show, Adira, is in the call queue. So I'm going to bring Adira to the show now. Hello. Thanks for calling the Tabletop Call-in Show.
Hello.
How's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Awesome. Hey.
Jeremy gives a big thumbs up.
Yeah. Nice. Sweet. Cool. Okay. So you were talking about like multi-phase gameplay, right? With like multiple mechanics for different sort of modes of play. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I think there's like an interesting push and pull with that in like a lot of current design stuff where people are like, some of the like complaints for certain games is like, oh well, these mechanics for this part of the game are so divorced from this mechanics from that part of the game, right? Like think about a lot of like the complaints around non-combat mechanics in like D&D, right? So I don't know. I think that's interesting. I think that's something to chew on. I don't got much more than that.
So you're saying like people complain when the mechanics are too divorced?
Sometimes, yeah. Like I have had a number of ideas around various like multi-phase gameplay things where it's like, all right, your character sheet, when you're doing this style of gameplay, you do this, and then you like flip it over. And now you got a different character sheet that's for this other sort of style of gameplay and things like that. People seem a little bit like frustrated by that at certain points because it's like, oh, I've got to learn multiple games, I've got to do all these sorts of different things. Something that seems to like help it, I found, is if you sort of more explicitly state it, not it's like different phases of one game, but it's multiple games that all share, that are just all live in one book, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Or like
and you're supposed to play like in concert with each other, but like being upfront that this is basically multiple games.
Yeah, like having a book that's like, all right, here's this setting, and here are here's this whole big massive setting with all these different things you can do, and here's some rules for doing this thing in this setting, and here's some rules for doing that thing in this setting, and you could play a game that's just that thing, right? Like you can play Grasping Nettles without having to go on an adventure.
Oh, sure,
yeah. And so, but just like encouraging people to like, no, you can branch off and play these multiple games that all exist in this sort of shared thing, seemed to be a thing that made people more interested. Because like a lot of times talking to people who are like newer to games and whatnot, it's hard to get them to learn one game. And then if you go, well, but this game has 7 different rules.
This game has 7 games.
Yeah. And it's like if you go up front, like, hey, we could play this game here, and they've got extra rules for doing this other game, but we'd have to learn that other game, right? And then the other person goes, oh yeah, no, I totally get that. Yeah, sure, I'll learn those rules. I'm invested now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You had a thought,
everything should
Adam?
be like Traveler but simpler. Um,
I was
uh,
thinking like
Often something I
I
find in my
was thinking like
research.
GURPS, or at least like my understanding of GURPS, where there's 65 billion different like rules add-ons that
okay,
GURPS
so
has.
I am a GURPS liker. I am ashamed to say, I do like GURPS.
No
um,
shame here.
hey, that's fine for you. um, what if I want to get off on it?
Yeah.
So yeah, GURPS GURPS is GURPS is the problem with GURPS is that it's not multiple games, right?
Mhm.
The problem with it is that it's too many fucking things all at once, and some of them are just god awful. They're just complete garbage. Um, uh, it's one of the reasons why I think the best kind of GURPS game you can play is a superhero game. Because you get up to all sorts of weird comic nonsense and all sorts of weird. Well, this guy's a wizard and that guy has a laser gun, and you just
That is
you're
what
fighting.
superheroes are. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. Superheroes are a fucking mess, just like GURPS.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's there's like an interesting dichotomy back to like your original point where there are a lot of players of games that are maybe hesitant to learn new games, and then there's like the weirdos. I say that lovingly because I'm in this group that like
Oh yeah.
love all kinds of different games and just willingly start playing different games, and like the very idea, I mean, the chance exploding with
Hmm.
with people saying that they just love playing different games linking to each other, and that's like a
Hmm.
completely separate world from the people that are like, well, I don't really want to learn a new game. And so yeah, how do you like
I think.
including it all in one game is cool,
Mhm.
because like I would love that. But yeah, that's just an interesting line to walk.
Yeah, I think Friends of the Table has done a lot to sort of like push that towards like mainstream stuff in the sort of like broader audience, since they are like one of the most popular actual play podcasts, and they do take multiple games and use them in the same world,
Mm-hmm.
to like have various different lenses on it, um, that like they can do because there's like a lot of stuff and things, you know, podcast episodes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And a podcast is just a book.
I don't know why that
I
got me.
think I think this I had an interview with Kevin Wynn uh, last year on DYD, and Kevin kind of opened me up to the concept of or the terming of modal games,
Yeah.
uh,
Hmm.
and I think to speak to the earliest part of this conversation where you talked about how like the non-combat and the combat sort of feel divorced from each other in D&D, and how there is also a side of this uh, spectrum that is resistant to learning multiple games at one time. I think in the approach for Umbral Dive, or potentially in the approach for like multi-system
Yeah.
games, um, I think it's also like cool if you came at it from like a modularity standpoint. So if I had
Hmm.
like a 5 mechanic game, a 5 system game, quote unquote. I'm quoting for the podcast listeners later. If I had overworld mechanics, faction mechanics, RP mechanics, player facing combat mechanics, and then GM facing combat mechanics, I think as we're talking about this, I'm thinking about writing them in such a way that they are not tied to one another, so that if you and I like if I ripped from different inspirations, like let's say I took the
Hmm.
storytelling of like RP of belonging outside belonging, right? If it's just a
Yeah.
token
Yeah.
system, right? But my tactical combat is like a just making it up like a D20 system, right? You should be able to I think you should be able to say I don't really like tactical combat, but I love the setting that ties all of these different systems together. Let's play in this, but not combat. And that shouldn't affect the game at
Yeah.
large, I think is what I am vibing with.
I think this is part of why people like the OSR.
Yeah.
Because one of the sort of like marketing points for the OSR, right, is all of these like modular things that can all connect with each other and things like that. And like it doesn't actually work like that in practice, and it is a very limited framework and as far as how these sort of modular things do like connect together. But I think like actually doing that as opposed to just sort of doing it for marketing purposes, uh, like the OSR does, I think would be great, Jeremy. I'd love to see you do that.
Yeah. Oh, you will.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Combat coming to you soon.
Hey.
All right.
All right. You want me to leave?
I mean, you're well. Yeah, sure.
But before you leave, why, if people don't know who you are or want to like learn more about you, Adira, why don't you just give a little sign off here for yourself?
Sure, yeah. I'm Adira Slattery. You can find me by Googling Adira Slattery. Go fuck yourself. Hey.
All right.
All right.
Thanks for
That's
calling
Monday
in.
morning. That's January 24th.
Whoa. Very good.
Go fuck yourself, San Diego.
All right, we've got another caller in the queue. Bringing in Aaron Lim. Hello. Thanks for calling the Tabletop Calling Show. How are you doing today?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Hello.
I was waiting to see if
Jazzed
Jeremy
up.
would respond.
Yeah. Just another thumbs up.
Yeah, I'm actually just gonna like keep the multi-game thing rolling because that's really interesting. That's something that I think is in the air, so to
Yeah.
speak. Feels like a continuation of a bunch of like design trends from Firebrands, which is like often touted as like a collection of mini games. Popularity of like blades being like all the separation of the phases of play. And potentially like just like stuff like bringing a lot more like board game influences in as well, because a lot of board games have like very modular parts of games, where you're like actually doing really different things and like different parts of the game, right? Like mechanically different, but like still within the, you'll do an auction for one bit, and then a worker placement thing for one bit, and then there's a dice rolling combat thing, and then so like it feels like you can pull a bunch of like different things together under one concept. So yeah, I'm keen to hear like I know, Jeremy, you mentioned that you're working on this in Umbral Dive, right? Or like something like this. Are you working within that as well, Adam?
No. Not really, because I think for me, since my inclination is naturally just to jump between different games, it's not even something I've really thought about as from a design perspective. Which now that we're having this conversation, like maybe I will, especially as I eventually try to make eventually try to make the Bell Hack where it's like a full actual RPG, and not actual RPG. That's not the right way to say it, but you know what I mean, like semi-trad style game where there's a GM. I mean, Reliance is a GM game, but it's 2 pamphlets. So I haven't really made something with a lot of rules yet. And maybe that would
Most
be
of Unturned is a GM game, right?
It's like rotating GM.
Yeah.
That is like the closest thing to a big rulesy game, and there are more rules in there than I think I always remember. But because that sort of is a breakup of different games. Like there's a small world building game at the beginning, and then there's the adventuring phase, and then there's basically a Forge in the Dark downtime. So there are 3 games in that game. It's just not something I ever thought about in that way before.
Yeah, or even like you said, you used follow for to play within Grasping Nettles, or like as a continuation of Grasping Nettles. But there's nothing that says you can't do No Stone Unturned for that. You could just like package them together.
Right? Yeah, yeah. Replace the first half of No Stone Unturned with a session of Grasping Nettles, and then you've got locations, you got factions. Jump in.
Yeah,
Mhm,
yeah.
mhm.
You should do a bridging PDF. It's just like, okay, here's how to combine your two games together.
Yeah. Well, so I think that's the interesting thing that gets to me a little bit is like,
Mm.
how do you? And Jeremy, this might be a question for you since you're thinking about it, but like, how do you do that? Because like, Follow worked specifically because there was a plot line that emerged from Grasping Nettles, that a game like Follow that has mechanics for somebody betraying the party as well as mechanics for it's just a game about a quest. But like,
Mhm.
if a quest didn't emerge clearly on the note cards of Grasping Nettles, like we never would have played Follow. We would have played something else. Maybe a game of Fiasco. Maybe I mean, like I said, there's a Blades in the Dark thing. So like, how do you consider that and like wrap in all of the different possibilities?
I
Is
think
it,
I think the wrapper of all those mechanics, I think, is the most important part for like a multi-system game. Because for Umbral Dive, what I'm imagining is that if anyone's played Halo, sort of like that Halo colony thing. I don't know what they're called. The rings? Is that what they're called? Is it called the Halo? Listen, I don't
They're
know
called
anything about
Halos,
Halo.
yeah.
Okay, cool. So like you have in this game you have the Halo, and the
Yeah.
purpose of the Halo is to contain five planets that smashed together and formed like this nebulous space. So as like this the ring contains this big ball of rock and dust and aliens and monsters and stuff. And so if you didn't want to play the adventurers, the characters that dive into that space or prevent like I call them rising stars instead of falling stars, stars that would like run into the halo or escape the space. Um, you could like just sort of see that on the periphery, like you could see ships going off and people diving into the thing, but you could play like just the faction stuff on the ring if you wanted to. And if you didn't want to play the modular mechanics that let you engage with like faction or relationship stuff, you can just play the tactical, like we just play adventures that dive in all the time, and then we get our rewards, then we dive in again. Like I think the scope of the setting is what wraps the mechanics together, and then engage it allows you to be immersive in your story types. I still think there has to be like some guiding in the setting as well as like what is the theming, right? This is a fantasy adventure sci-fi sort of thing, so there's political stuff, there's dive into the cave and fight the monster sort of things. You could like do ancient tech, like the setting could have ancient tech stuff or alien tech stuff that every once in a while falls into the halo, so you have to go find that in destroyed sections of it or something. There's a lot of different like options there in my mind, but I think the key component is setting. I think whatever you place these mechanics in or are a part of, I think that's the through line instead of like everything needs a d20 roll. I think the through line is what's the genre of engagement for this sort of different set of mechanics.
right?
That's
Yeah,
just me.
yeah.
God, dude.
Sorry, I was gonna say, because like I think I don't know whether it's counterintuitive or not, but like I actually think the most interesting version of this idea is one where there's no mechanical through line, right?
Mm-hmm.
That the pieces of the games should be able to be played independently, right? And like it benefits like hyper focus on like the specific thing that one game is trying to do, and you're tying in more thematically, because I feel like if you try and force it, then everyone will start to think of the whole thing as like one system,
Yeah.
like and then not realize that oh yeah, it's actually like parts of a interconnected ecosystem rather than like a single system, which is
Mhm.
like I think more exciting because like it's a avenue for like collaboration. Um, rather than like like potentially like like if you have like say a themed bundle that like hey, here's this itch bundle, there are 4 games, they kind of tie together thematically and you can use them in a campaign in this certain way, right? And that
Mhm.
that encourages you to like connect with other designers and like look, everyone brings in like different things to the games rather than like always just like one person's view on like how a campaign should go, right? I
Mhm.
think this is a great opportunity to like collaborate with like other people and like let's just like jam a bunch of stuff together because I feel I feel like that's part of the fun of it, right? It's just like that kind of transgressive fun of like, oh, we are kind of like jamming things together that feels like they shouldn't work together, but like they do in the end, right?
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, like I think I posted a link earlier on like I think Levi or Levi Cornelson on Twitter mentioned like they have this like a bunch of different itch projects which are separate things, but you could string them together. And the word they used for it was the open folio,
Mhm.
which is a really cool word because folios are not bound books, right? So like you can pull pages out when you need them.
Mhm.
Um, so like the idea of like a folio game rather than like one book, right? Like the text is not like just one bound book. Like it's things that can be shifted around and moved and like um put together in different ways. And with an open folio is like the idea is that you can slot in other games in there. You can slot in other
Mhm.
designers in there, not just like, you know, focus on like a single vision. Um yeah, like that's the thing that like makes me excited about like this idea of like multi games is also because it's less work. It's less work. You don't have to design everything yourself. It's just like, okay, let's work with other people. It's like I will
Yeah.
just recommend here are four world building games that work really well with my adventure game, right? And
Mhm.
here are 4 adventure games that work really well with my world building game. That would be like cool to like see happen as well. Like yeah.
Yeah, while you were talking and I was thinking and you were talking some more and those all those things were mixing together like a beautiful mango pineapple juice. Uh, Two things came to mind. One, I think what's really interesting about the multi-game system is that, or open folio system, whatever the term leaves here today as, you can have build-up, right? So in that previous example where I was like, if you don't want to engage in certain mechanics or re-engage with certain mechanics over and over again, like you just want to do dives the whole time, eventually you might get a player of like, well, what is the Halo doing with all of this dust that we're collecting, right? At some point you run like 3, 4, 5 dives, and then you're like suddenly curious, like, oh well, how do the factions respond, right? So
Mhm.
then I think what's interesting is that you can stockpile as the game goes on, and then when it reaches like your personal tables like critical mass, and you're like you get curious about something. I get curious about like this NPC I'm buying uh, uh, a mech from or something like
Mm.
that. Uh, then you engage in the micro level RP mechanics, or if you want to do some inter-party stuff, like that's there. So I think it's really interesting. And then the second thing is um, having multiple designers come together for a shared universe and put mechanics in that. Like me and Adam talk about our games that we're working on often, hence this show, in part. But Adam is really good at the like political faction story side of game engagement, and
Mhm.
I like just me and Adam alone. I'm thinking like, okay, so what if Umbral Dive Bell Hack are just two parts of the same thing within the same universe? If that's something that like Adam is vibing with, right? And I don't think I need an answer here on the show publicly for everyone, but uh, that's just one example of like my strong suit isn't like analyzing belonging outside belonging or Dream Askew or PBTA games or something like that, right? So if I found another designer that fit like, hey, I think your thought process on overworld travel or like overworld gameplay and how that responds would you like to partner with me and like make something in this setting, like mechanics that work for this setting? And if that's a rehash of a previous system, that's whatever, like that they've made. Or if it's something new that they're inspired to do, also great. But I think it has that energy because we're already doing that. Like the people who are having this conversation today are already sort of doing that. Where Adam has talked about going from grasping nettles to follow to blades in the dark, because these things fit very specific types of engaging, very specific zooming ins and outs of the story they're trying to tell. We've seen that in anthology games, but not necessarily as connected is not the word I want to use, but as encapsulated as like a shared setting sort of thing.
Integrated almost.
Yeah, integrated is a pretty good word. Yeah, integrated systems. Ooh, I got the tingles on that. Yeah, Adam emote. Where is it?
Because
bonus points.
I think it'd be cool to like form like multiple bands, rather than like design teams. It's just like you know sometimes you play in this band, sometimes you play in the other band,
Yes.
right? A lot of like indie bands are like that.
Yes.
Like the new pornographers is like, oh yeah, like it's kind of like associated acts, right? Destroyer's frontman plays bass or guitar or something, like I can't remember. Ted Behar sings on new pornographers tracks, and Nico Case goes off and does her own thing, and then like sometimes you come together and make an album, right?
Yeah,
Sometimes you come together and make an album.
Let's get the band
Yeah.
together.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah,
juice
I
just
like.
flowing out of me right now.
I guess that's all I've got really. So.
Cool. Well, Aaron, do
Cool.
you have anything to shout about here at the end of your call?
Yeah, I guess check out my stuff on itch. I'm EHRONLIME Aaron Lime .itch.io. I've been playtesting Spectres of Brocken full cover, which is not really. It's kind of mini gamesy. It's my plan is that it's kind of 3 connected mini games in one. Uh, yeah, so it's not really what we're talking about, but like it's more like there's different phases to the game, and each phase adds on like different mechanics. So yeah, it's about young mech pilots getting to know each other at an academy, and then you fast forward several years later, and they are ace pilots with their own custom mechs fighting each other. I think both of you have playtested different variations of this at some point. So yeah, that's the big thing I'm working on this year. So yeah, check that out.
Cool. Will do. It's
Cool.
very good. If you the viewer need a second opinion, I liked it a lot whenever I played it.
I also liked it a lot. Words are cool.
All right.
All right.
Yeah, cool. See ya. Thank you.
See you later. Thanks for calling in.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right. It's good. We didn't even plan a topic today. We kind of got one. I'm into it.
Yeah, it's fine. I'm engaged with it.
I'm engaged. Look at us. We're engaged. We've got another caller. You know that?
Yeah, I saw that.
Wow.
Wow.
Hi.
And who is it other than?
Welcome back to the Tabletop Call-In Show.
It's me, Will Yopes. It's so great to be back.
Hell yeah.
Hey, you two, what's up? Hey, isn't Aaron just such a delight to listen to? It's like sitting in the queue, just looking at my microphone, like, what the fuck am I gonna say? Like, I don't need nothing. Aaron leaves it all up there, you know?
Yeah, I get it.
So yeah, what's new? What's happening?
Here we are. What is new that
Yeah,
I
what
haven't
is
already said?
happening?
There's got to be something new that I haven't already brought up today.
I mean,
Snowing.
has anybody given you kind of a Kickstarter pep talk yet for tomorrow? You know,
No.
like do not go quietly into the night, that kind of thing.
Nobody has. No. I'm going in blind.
Yeah,
Well,
just
not blind.
buckle up, buddy.
I'm lacing on the clown shoes, and it'll be fine. I think it'll be fine.
You're gonna do great. So we are talking about on this episode of the Tabletop Colin Show, games smashing together, games that are two games, games that are multiple games, and you know what? The games in parentheses S Jam is going on right now, where people are smashing games together, see what comes out. So I think anybody who's interested in this, wants to explore this area, definitely check that out. I can post a link in the chat when I'm done. But there's already. Adam did a submission already. It's great. Everyone, check out the jam. I mean, it's obviously a topic I'm really interested in. Torque, the CarPG, being a 50-50 clean split kind of game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Two pieces of a game that don't want anything mechanically to do to each other, but have everything to do narratively with each other. So it's a design space that it's really exciting to hear people talk about.
Yeah, I think that the revelation, I think Aaron probably, somebody said it. It was either Aaron or Jeremy. It wasn't me. He said that the through line should be, maybe it was a Tira? I don't know. It doesn't matter. The through line should be purely like thematic, not mechanical.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's super interesting because that means that you're like just pulling on your narrative inclination as players, which is something I've been kind of harping about with like Legend Has It, is that people are just naturally good storytellers. So like they'll figure out the through line.
Yeah.
We're storytellers.
Truly.
Human
kind of our
beings
thing.
see patterns in stories.
Have you ever heard of the 3-act structure?
Have you ever heard of the hero's journey? I love that. I love the hero's journey. I love the abyss. I love this racer shit.
I want to return with the elixir, please.
I gotta get the elixir, dude. But I like the idea of selecting, where the through line is, and I like the idea of not having any kind of through line at all. I think that we came into this era of game design, this kind of specifically indie design, as a response to extremely elegant systems. Your Fates, your D&D is elegant. Sorry, I'm gonna say it.
Okay.
But I like sloppy, weird, clumsy stuff in my media habits. The video games I like, the RPGs I like to play, things that don't work well together, and that is part of the charm and part of the kind of mechanical reconnection that you make to a game and narrative reconnection. So it's just another, having elegance be a slider instead of a goal. What if I made this game quappy as hell and you are face down at the Olympics because you forgot how to run? Like, yeah.
Yeah, give me the big, clunky, Firebrands formatted pile of games, and I'll quap my way through it.
Look at Captain Sonar, for example, which is a 4v4 live battleship game where everyone has a different job. It's my favorite game, I think. And that is, you're basically all pushing a car that keeps on having the doors fall off. Like... And it is such a blast, and that has a lot going for it, just with being a piece of beautiful design, but also being extremely messy and sloppy and mean and weird.
I just got a little bit mad at myself. I forgot about Captain Sonar. In that time where people were hanging out, I definitely had 8 people in my home in the past at some point, and I didn't play Captain Sonar.
Was walking through a Gen Con and going incognito just through the game hall, just peering at things, as you might. And we came across people playing Captain Sonar. Never seen it before because you could hear them before you could see them, because people just screaming at each other because they're surfacing. And if those of you who are not familiar, like I said, it's Battleship, but it's 4-on-4, and everyone has a different job, and it's live. So you are submarines underground trying to sink the other sub, trying to figure out where they are, trying to listen to what the other team is saying, using transparency paper to track movements and to shoot torpedoes and to lay mines. And It's a Panic Attack, and it's really good.
It's so good.
Sounds amazing.
Yeah, and that inspiration of having not only, we have asynchronous play all the time with all of our RPGs. I think even considering what you're going to do during the next session in a campaign is a game. Games like Invisible Sun make that part of the rules. No comment. But that's in war games, painting a mini is a sort of game that you play with yourself, and just making those pieces these all go together, whether or not it's at the table happening live. So my question is, what two games would you two smush together? What are we smushing?
I've already done. So yeah, you mentioned that I smushed two. I already did a games jam submission where I smushed Codenames and Kind of the Quiet Year together, which just really came out of nowhere for me.
That is Impetus and Omen.
Yeah. So that's my first answer, is that I've done Codenames map drawing game, which
I have been smushing.
What I've done with that is I printed out a copy and just shoved it into my Codenames box. And I'm hoping sometime in the distant future when somebody pulls that out to play, they're like, what the heck is this? And then they play that instead.
Beautiful.
Is there a game that does like location, like betrayer things? What is that called? Location betrayer game.
Location betrayer game.
Yeah, you set location cards on the table that everyone can see, and everyone has a card that shows you like what location everyone's supposed to be at, except for the off agent. And at some point, you all select the location at the same time, or declare what it is on like an index card or something, and then using context clues, the betrayer has to like figure out what location everyone's supposed to meet at.
Mm-hmm. It sounds like you're describing a more complicated version of Spyfall.
Oh, is it Spyfall? I think it might be Spyfall.
Spyfall's the one where all but one person...
Exactly it, yes.
Okay. Okay.
Yes, 100% it's Spyfall.
Yeah, all but one person know where the location is, and they take turns asking each other bizarre questions to prove that they know where they are, and one person's like, well, what are you talking about? But has to pretend that they know.
Saying.
It's fun. Are you mashing Spyfall with something?
No. Your game made me think about that. But,
Spyfall's that James Bond Adele thing, right?
Yeah. Yes. Correct.
In the house at the end of the shotgun. Yeah. Of course.
I think that I would combine some combination of like...
Give me two great tastes that taste great together.
I am a chef. Did everyone know that?
Just like the coffee and orange juice I had at the beginning of the show.
I'm gonna...
Yikes.
See?
I feel my heart burning from even hearing that combination.
What is that?
Yeah.
It's like the blood from the xenomorph just passing through my body.
Something, but not necessarily like Iron Sworn, plus like D&D 4th edition specifically. I think that would be something. I'm a skirmish tactical junkie, so
you're going ambitious.
One of my choices are gonna be that.
I'm taking two huge games.
I know no limits.
That's great.
I have no cap on my potential.
Too big to fail.
Yeah, truly.
That's what everyone, if you're working on a giant project that seems to have no end, remember, too big to fail.
Too big to fail.
Just keep on adding.
Just keep bolting on, and eventually something will shape.
I think I definitely would, and I know I would definitely take some sort of social deduction game, board game, and some sort of tabletop game and mash those together. I think that would be my next thing. But that's because I love social deduction games. I know that's not a universal take, but the official position of the Tabletop Call-In show is that they're good.
These games are pretty good.
Yeah, I like them.
Yeah, you got to make games for you. What the hell?
Yeah, what the hell?
What's going on?
What's going on?
Yeah. What would you do, Will?
Yeah, what are your two
me?
choices?
I think I would pick maybe a light modular tactical game, maybe on like a 3x3 grid representing kind of a pack of cars or road. And I would kind of blend that with a very character-driven, scene-driven sort of, freeform role-playing game where it's GM-less along with a tactical piece, but it's kind of a ebb to the flow of the road. Just off the top of my head.
Yeah.
Is there any chance that is a thing that's real?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm literally staring down the barrel of an export loading bar to send to Mixum.com for the 8th fucking time in the last 3 days.
No.
So, yeah, Torque coming soon. You can find it for pre-order at goodluckpress.co.
Great.
Yeah,
You know?
you can also hear a little bit about it on the Draw Your Dice podcast.
And no spoilers, but maybe we'll have a revisit when it's done, and we can, compare and contrast. I did a PDF walkthrough with Spencer Campbell on the Coffee Break episode yesterday. I think the VOD's up now, so you can check it out. But I'm almost free of this prison I've made for myself, this roll cage of my own.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that, harking back to the beginning of the show where Will, you in the chat said that it's fine that it took a year. It's not that I'm worried about the consumer end of me taking a year. I just don't want to be trapped in there again.
When I was in the dregs of this project, I remember something you said, which was, this is a hobbyist project, and I would not take this on right now. I would not make this work for myself. Present day, but it started conceptually there, and being true to the vision and making it what it wants to be is worth that, allegedly.
I think it will be, at least as somebody who wants to hold it and read it.
Yeah,
making games is
absolutely
hard though. Yeah. Well, I think we're gonna start ramping up the show here. Thank you, of course, for calling in, continuing our discussion of many games. That was
thanks. Bye.
Thanks. Yeah. What do we got, Jeremy? What do we got to fill out the last 6 minutes besides just saying thanks bye ourselves?
Well,
Whoop, whoop.
first of all, thank you to everyone who's participating in the chat. I could read all these names. I might. I think I'm going to. I can maintain that as a micro influencer. It'll take like 2 minutes. I have a thought for you. I have an interesting social deduction thought for you.
Great. I want to hear it.
But thank you, Aaron Lim, for being here, and Dice Ghost, and Eli. Adira, thanks for being a first-time chatter and call-inner. Will Yopes, thanks for being here. Floating Chair. Adam Bell, you said call in one time, so thank you for being in the chat.
You got it.
Fictive Fun, Hydroforge. Oh. Dan Phipps, I know, showed up. Aegon F is here. Foremost Grub 9. Cherry Drop Rue. And I'm scrolling. Jason Bostwick. Raph D'Amico. And that's it. Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here today. Yeah. Hi, everyone. I did not say bye yet.
Do we want to... Jerry, you mentioned Hot Seat at the very beginning of the show. Perhaps we can tease what's happening next week. Because, of course, next week is the 5th Monday of January. We're once again saddled with this curse that we've set upon ourselves, that the 5th Monday is a special show. First and third Monday is the talk show. Second and fourth is the call-in show. That's today. 5th Monday is bonus. And what we're going to do is we're doing a pilot of a new show that we kind of came up with, which is the Tabletop Hot Seat. And what the Tabletop Hot Seat is going to be is we're going to do 2 episodes, essentially, because one Jeremy's going to be in the hot seat and one I'm going to be in the hot seat. In the hot seat is where you have 10 minutes to show the coolest part of your game and like run through a demo of it with the, you know, the host of the show. So Jeremy's going to run me through a 10-minute demo of Umbral Dive, and then we'll talk about it. And then I'll run Jeremy through a 10-minute demo of something. I don't know what. Probably the bell hack. And then we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
So the idea is to try to get a designer to hone their brain mode into what would be super useful at a convention, to demo the game and show somebody what's cool about it, so that they want it.
Yeah,
And also
making
have
it
fun.
as tight as possible, and not in like a pressured way, but just like so. Basically, what me and Adam are doing that is if the hot seat continues, we'll be bringing on other people who are interested to do such a thing, as a sort of like exercise in getting your pitch down, essentially. And you know, I think there's some use in that. I think there's some use in that.
At the very least, I think it'll be entertaining. Because,
Yeah.
like, the main way that we have to do a demo of our games is to do an actual play, and that's, like, 2 to 4 hours of gameplay that somebody would have to walk through, whereas this would be, here's, like, a half-hour total show, 10 minutes is the real juicy stuff, and then you can move on. Yeah.
Yeah,
And you
yeah.
obviously won't get the full picture, but, like, you don't need the full picture. You just need that little taste.
It's a taste. It's a taster. Yeah. Social deduction thought at the end of the show here for you, Adam. So we've played at least Blood on the Clock Tower together, and we both each played our own individual cool social deduction games. And typically the structure of a social deduction, I'm not saying that's true of all games, but it's usually the uninformed majority and the well-informed minority. Would you say that's true, like as a structural thing?
Yeah.
Cool. I thought about this the other day to the
Well,
like.
Spyfall's the opposite, but keep going.
Yes, Spyfall is the opposite. The style of D&D like DMing where it's the suboptimal meta thing of you're not supposed to know what the monster can do, so like you have to make suboptimal choices against it, or like meta playing. I think it's interesting that those are the same correlation, that the players are the uninformed majority, but the GM is the well-informed minority. There's like a social deduction structure there in that style. I just found it interesting. I was thinking about it the other day.
Yeah. The GM's the traitor.
Yeah, the GM's the traitor.
You could just say that we get what we want, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, that is an interesting corollary, because like everybody knows who the GM is. There's no secret GM, but like
Yeah.
there's definitely some interplay between how the game is structured in that way. Yeah,
Just food for thought for everyone. Think
it's-
about that.
just a little nugget of
Yeah.
thinking about for at the end of the show, because we just hit the top of the hour, and I think it's time for us to get out of here. This has been the Tabletop Colin Show. I think we did a good job today after we resolved my, we're going to call it technical difficulties. It was pure user error all the way through, but, you know, we got there. I've been Adam Bell. Find me on Twitter at AdamEBell. Go back, Legend has it, on Kickstarter tomorrow at kickstarter.adamebell.games. I'm going to hit the go button at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, so be there if you want one of those coveted early backer spots. Jeremy?
I've been Jeremy Gage. You can find me at JeremyGage5 over on Twitter. You can listen to the Draw Your Dice podcast, which can also be found at Draw Your Dice Pod, also on Twitter. And look forward to the combat game version of Umbral Dive.
Cool. All right. I'm going to send us to the break. Take it easy, everybody. Have a good rest of your Monday, etc. Bye.